Hollywood lawsuits usually stay quiet. Lawyers talk, studios stall, and everything happens behind closed doors. But this one didn't just leak, it exploded. Because buried inside unsealed court documents from It Ends With Us was something no one expected. A private trail of texts and emails that quietly pulled some of the biggest names in Hollywood into a war they never signed up for. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Taylor Swift, Bradley Cooper, even Anna Wintour. And at the center of it all was one line that stopped people cold. Blake Lively describing the making of the movie as an experience that nearly killed her. And that was only the beginning. What started as a legal fight between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni slowly unraveled into something much bigger. A behind-the-scenes power struggle, whispered accusations, and private conversations that were never meant to see daylight. And once those messages were unsealed, Hollywood went very quiet. But let's rewind. This story begins during post-production of It Ends With Us, a movie that was already emotionally heavy before the cameras even stopped rolling. Justin Baldoni wasn't just starring in the film. He was directing it. Blake Lively was the lead. On paper, it looked like a prestige project built on trust and collaboration. Behind the scenes, according to court filings, it was anything but. In December 2024, Blake Lively filed a lawsuit against Baldoni, accusing him of inappropriate behavior and retaliation. Baldoni denied the claims and fired back with a massive countersuit, one so large it made headlines on its own, before it was later dismissed. At that point, most people assumed this would follow the usual Hollywood pattern: quiet negotiations, carefully worded statements, then silence. Instead, the opposite happened. As the case moved closer to trial, a judge ordered several exhibits to be unsealed, documents that had been sitting quietly in the background for months. And when they became public, they revealed something no one saw coming. More than 100 potential witnesses were named. Not assistants, not anonymous crew members, actual A-listers. And once people started reading the messages, it became clear this wasn't just a dispute between two people. This was a full-scale unraveling. One of the first names to surface sent shockwaves through the internet. Taylor Swift. According to partially unsealed texts, Blake Lively reached out to Taylor during post-production, asking her to support a revised version of the script Blake was proposing, allegedly even before Taylor had read it. Baldoni's legal team claimed the message showed Blake leveraging influence. Taylor's response, according to the filing, was enthusiastic. "I'll do anything for you." On its own, that line lit social media on fire. But Blake's attorneys quickly pushed back, saying the texts were missing crucial context. They argued Blake had sent Taylor the script and explicitly told her there was no pressure, that Taylor happened to be on her way over while Baldoni was still present in Blake's home. What followed was a string of messages that felt less like strategy and more like emotional support between close friends. Blake allegedly called Taylor epically heroic afterward, saying she had recapped everything to Ryan Reynolds. But then the tone shifted. In another exchange, Taylor allegedly made a comment about Baldoni, suggesting he sensed something was coming. Blake's legal team didn't deny the language existed, only that it proved anything malicious. After news of the lawsuit went public, Taylor allegedly messaged Blake again, telling her she had helped protect people who wouldn't have to go through the same thing. That message alone fueled weeks of debate online. Support or something else? And Taylor wasn't the only major name pulled in. Around the same time, Ryan Reynolds reached out to Matt Damon and his wife, Luciana, asking them to watch Blake's edit of the film. Blake followed up herself, stressing there was zero pressure. But then came the line that made everything feel darker. In one email, Blake allegedly described working on the movie as something that nearly killed her and accused Baldoni of being part of a cult. Matt Damon's response was unexpectedly light, offering help however he could and joking that Blake should direct her next film with his and Ben Affleck production company, Artists Equity, if the experience hadn't completely destroyed her soul. Blake reportedly replied, "Where do I sign?" The jokes didn't last long, because elsewhere in the same thread, Ryan Reynolds accused Baldoni of asking their trainer, just weeks after Blake had given birth, how much Blake would weigh in 2 weeks. According to Reynolds, Baldoni claimed it was because he might need to carry her in a scene. That allegation hit differently. Then came another claim that stunned readers. Blake alleged Baldoni told her he regularly spoke to her late father. Luciana Damon allegedly responded by calling Baldoni creepy and suggesting Blake make a documentary about him. Blake already had a title in mind, Lights Cult Action, and Ryan Reynolds didn't hold back either, allegedly describing Baldoni as a malignantly vain, sociopathic effeusmanist with no boundaries. By this point, it was clear the situation wasn't improving behind the scenes. Ben Affleck's name appeared next. Blake reportedly asked Affleck to watch the film after it had been rewritten and restructured, again emphasizing there was no obligation. In the message, she described the production as the most upsetting experience she'd ever had on a movie, saying the behind-the-scenes story would be more interesting than the film itself. She even joked it felt like a mix between Wild Wild Country, Fire Festival, Going Clear, and The Room. She also mentioned she'd love Jennifer Lopez's opinion. Whether Affleck or Lopez ever watched the cut remains unclear, but others did. In August 2024, Anna Wintour allegedly emailed Blake privately, praising the film and calling it brave, adding that knowing how difficult the situation was made her especially proud. And then the cast started speaking. Jenny Slate, who played Baldoni's on-screen sister, sent messages to her team, making it clear she wanted nothing to do with him during press. She allegedly described the shoot as disturbing and said she and Blake had complained directly to the studio. Her words were brutal. She reportedly called Baldoni a fraud, a false ally, someone crafting an image he didn't live up to. In another message, she said she'd never encountered anyone like him, and she wasn't alone. Brandon Sklenar, who played Atlas, exchanged messages with Blake that revealed frustration and disbelief. When Blake said Baldoni watched her cut without authorization, Sklenar replied, I can't believe it. He later questioned Baldoni's lack of foresight, especially given his public persona built around podcasts, books, and TED-style messaging. Then came one of the most controversial threads of all. After the film premiered, Jamila Jamil exchanged texts with Jennifer Abel, Baldoni's publicist, criticizing Blake's tone during the press tour. The language was harsh, emotional, and deeply personal. Jamil described Blake as a bizarre villain, reacting to backlash over interviews and a resources link Blake shared online. Abel reportedly called the post sick. Jamil agreed, saying it felt cold. They even discussed whether Baldoni should share the same link before deciding to keep him silent. Important to note, these messages reflect opinions and reactions, not proven facts. But once they were unsealed, they became part of the narrative whether anyone liked it or not. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds was fighting a different battle. In messages to his manager, he expressed anger over how Blake's complaints were handled and how online narratives painted her as controlling. His manager suggested waiting to see if the noise died down. Reynolds responded with one chilling comparison, asking how that strategy worked out for Johnny Depp. The implication was clear. Letting things burn doesn't always end well. And then came the message that tied everything together. Blake allegedly told someone she had so much to tell them, including that author Colleen Hoover had reached out after realizing Baldoni was allegedly running an internal smear campaign to push his edit. According to Blake, Hoover was horrified, She claimed Hoover had been used as a shield publicly while being shut out privately. When Hoover finally watched Blake's cut in New York, Blake said it crushed the room. Bradley Cooper was there. He watched it twice. Blake described him as a hero, and the response she got afterwards said everything. No one should ever get into a war of wills with you. By the time these documents became public, the damage was already done. This wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. It was a portrait of how influence works when careers are on the line, how private texts become public weapons, and how Hollywood power rarely looks the way it does on camera. The trial isn't scheduled to begin until 2026, but in many ways, the real verdict is already playing out, not in a courtroom, but in how quietly people are choosing sides. And the biggest question now isn't who wins the case. It's how many reputations were permanently changed the moment those messages were unsealed. Follow for more.